The sun hung lazily over Abuja's skyline as a silver SUV turned into Chief Kenny's mansion in Asokoro. The gates opened slowly, revealing a young woman clutching a worn-out travel bag. Her name was Adaora, a shy village girl whose eyes carried both fear and quiet strength. She had come from Nsukka after hearing of a maid vacancy in Chief Kenny's home. The mansion stood tall like a palace, with marble floors that reflected light and silence that felt heavy with rules. As she stepped in, she whispered a prayer, promising to serve with her whole heart. Chief Kenny's wife, Madam Ifeoma, watched her from the balcony. Elegant in her silk robe and gold jewelry, she gave Adaora a sharp look, one that carried silent warning. "You will clean, cook, and stay in your quarters," she said coldly. "No unnecessary talks, no moving around at night." Adaora nodded humbly. She was used to being treated like she didn't matter. But she didn't come for comfort, she came for survival. Unknown to anyone in that mansion, this was not her first time near Chief Kenny. Years ago, during a heavy rainstorm on the old Enugu road, she had pulled a wounded man from a crashed car. That man was Chief Kenny. He never saw her face that night, only the gentle voice that prayed over him before help arrived. Now, fate had brought them together again. Chief Kenny had grown into one of Abuja's most respected businessmen. But Adaora's arrival stirred something in him he couldn't explain. As she arranged the dining table and bowed quietly, he caught himself staring. Her calmness felt familiar, almost haunting. And for the first time in years, the mansion that once felt perfect began to feel uncertain. The days passed quietly in the Kenny mansion. Adaora worked from sunrise until late at night, her hands rough from washing and scrubbing. She never complained. Her soft humming often filled the corridors, a gentle tone that reminded her of home. Chief Kenny noticed her diligence and calm spirit. One afternoon, as she served him tea in the study, he said softly, "You're different, Adaora. Where did you learn to be so patient?" She smiled faintly and replied, "Life teaches patience, sir." Their eyes met briefly before she lowered her gaze. It was a short exchange, but it planted a seed. Madam Ifeoma began to notice the subtle changes. Chief Kenny now ate at her more often, smiling faintly whenever Adaora entered the room. The cook whispered about it, the driver gossiped in secret, and soon the compound buzzed with quiet suspicion. Ifeoma, known for her pride and sharp tongue, couldn't stand it. One evening, as Adaora was mopping the living room, Ifeoma stepped in wearing her expensive gown and heels, her perfume filling the air. "So you found comfort here, haven't you?" she asked sharply. Adaora froze, unsure how to respond. "Just remember your place. No maid has ever lasted long here thinking she's special." That night, Adaora cried silently in her small quarters. She missed her mother and her little boy, who had died years ago in a hospital fire. Or so she thought. She had no idea the truth was far deeper, buried in that same fire. Meanwhile, Chief Kenny sat awake, haunted by a memory. A gentle voice praying over him years ago as blood flowed from his head. He couldn't remember the face, but the voice. It sounded just like Adaora's. Chief Kenny sat in his study long after midnight, the glow from his desk lamp casting long shadows across the room. He couldn't shake off the thought that Adaora's voice was the same one he had heard years ago during that terrible night on the Enugu road. The memory of blood, rain, and a soft voice praying over him returned like a whisper in his mind. The next morning, he called Adaora to bring him breakfast. As she set the tray down, he said gently, "Have we met before?" Adaora froze, her heart pounding. "No, sir," she replied quickly, her eyes fixed on the floor. But her trembling hands betrayed her. From the corner of the hallway, Madam Ifenyima watched closely.
Her jealousy had grown into suspicion. That night, she called her friend Ngozi, a gossip who worked at a private hospital, and told her to check Adaora's background. Find out everything about that girl, Ifenyima ordered. Ngozi promised to dig deep. Meanwhile, Adaora kept to herself, praying and avoiding unnecessary attention. She didn't want her past to surface. She knew that if Chief Kene ever discovered who she really was, the woman who saved him and the mother who lost a child in a hospital fire, everything would change. But fate had other plans. One evening, the family's young son, Somtu, fell sick and was rushed to the hospital. Adaora volunteered to go with them, holding the boy's hand as he whimpered in pain. When the nurse asked for a blood sample, something unexpected happened. Somto's blood type didn't match either Chief Kene's or Madame Ifeanyima's records. The nurse frowned. "That's strange," she murmured. Madame Ifeanyima brushed it off, but Chief Kene's eyes narrowed in confusion. Something wasn't right. The hospital corridors were quiet when Chief Kene returned 2 days later to collect Somto's test results. He expected nothing unusual, yet the doctor's face told another story. "Chief," the doctor began slowly, "there's been a serious error somewhere. Somto's DNA doesn't match yours or Madame Ifeanyima's." Kene's heart skipped. "What are you saying?" he asked. The doctor sighed and added quietly, "There was a hospital fire that same night, remember? Records were lost. It's possible the babies were switched." Chief Kene drove home in silence. His mind raced as images of Adaora flashed before him. Her calm nature, her tenderness towards Somto, the way the boy always clung to her more than anyone else. When he got home, Madame Ifeoma was pacing angrily, having already heard from her hospital friend. "You knew, didn't you?" she shouted at Adaora. "You've been planning this. How dare you come into my home and try to take what's mine?" Adaora fell to her knees, tears running down her face. "Madam, I swear I don't understand," she began, but Ifeoma slapped her hard across the face. Chief Kene rushed in, shouting, "Enough, Ifeoma!" His voice thundered through the mansion. "You will not touch her again." Ifeoma stared at her husband in disbelief. "So you are defending her now?" she hissed. But Kene's eyes were fixed on Adaora. He finally asked the question he had buried deep inside him for years. "Who are you, really?" The mansion fell silent as Adaora's lips trembled. The truth was clawing to be free. Inside the mansion, Madame Ifeoma overheard every word. Her heart hardened. "He needs her," she repeated bitterly. She poured herself a drink, her eyes cold. The woman who once had everything, beauty, wealth, respect, was losing it all to the girl she once looked down on. That night, as the light went out, Madame Ifeoma made a decision that would shake the mansion forever. It was past midnight when Madame Ifeoma entered Adaora's quarters quietly, her footsteps soft on the tiled floor. In her hand was a small envelope and a trembling resolve. Adaora woke to the sound of the door creaking open. Fear flashed in her eyes when she saw her madam standing there. "Please, I don't want any more trouble," Adaora whispered. Ifeoma's voice shook as she replied, "You've already caused enough." She threw the envelope on the bed. Inside were legal papers, adoption documents, and a resignation letter. "Sign them," she said coldly. "You'll take your son and leave this house forever." Adaora's fingers trembled as she opened the papers, but something stopped her. "I can't leave," she said softly. "There's something you both need to know before I go." Chief Kene, who had been walking by their argument, entered the room. Adaora looked at them both, tears streaming down her face. "The night of the hospital fire, you were both there. Chief, you were brought in that same night after your accident. Madam, you were unconscious after giving birth. It was I who helped the nurses carry the babies out. In the confusion, 2 babies were swapped. Mine became yours, and yours died that night. Somto was meant to be mine,
But by saving him, I also saved a part of you." The room went silent. Madam Ifeoma broke down, her anger melting into sorrow. Chief Kene sat beside Adaora, his eyes glistening. "You are part of this family now," he said softly. "You've always been." Adaora looked at Somto sleeping peacefully nearby and smiled through her tears. She had come seeking survival, but found purpose, forgiveness, and truth. As dawn broke over Abuja, light filled the mansion once more, not from wealth, but from healing.